G'day and welcome back to the shed. I've got a pretty interesting book haul video for you guys. The first one is a whole bunch of novels that I picked up in my mother's attic. She recently had to vacate her home and I was cleaning up, and I was happily and pleasantly surprised to find that Mum has literally been storing these books for me for the last 40 odd years, 45 odd years, and I just love you for it, Mum. So I want to go through a trip back in time. We got our very own time machine happening in the Sci-Fi shed today, and I'll go through some of the interesting novels that my mum held for me, and these I must have been around about 10 years old, some of these books, they go back. So I'm really looking forward to sharing those with you. And I've also got a bunch of vintage Robert Heinlein novels here as well that I've almost forgotten actually exactly what's in here, so I'm really keen to open those up with you. So I'm going to keep the camera rolling. Now, this I hope will not get emotional, because I love you to bits, Mum. I honestly cannot believe she must have moved home at least twice, and she managed to, cart these novels around for me, and I'm forever grateful because it's just wonderful. Now, the first couple are not science fiction, which may surprise many of you readers, but there must have been a phase when I was 12 or 13 years old or so that I really enjoyed reading old westerns. Now, I've got here Prairie Empire by Clayton Fox. Now, I honestly don't know if people still read these novels. Blood River Gold by Swain Adams. And the last one was The 13th Gun by A.L. Cahill. Now, I honestly cannot remember anything about these novels, apart from the fact that I remember enjoying them, and I obviously bought a couple, and it was a real eye-opener, just a huge trip down memory lane seeing those, so I thought they were pretty cool. Now we're starting to get more into, I think, where my love for fantasy and science fiction sort of took its roots. Now, Ian Livingstone's game books, I think they were called, fighting fantasy novels. I know Nev, and I'll link Nev's channel down below. Nev has also got a couple of these and he's been reading them. But these go way back to my childhood. Ian Livingstone's Armies of Death. And for those of you who don't know, you sort of basically read these books like your choose your own adventure book. But it's also a fighting fantasy game. So you roll a dice and you come across monsters, and you have stamina and health points, and I think also different luck points it would have here, and you sort of roll a dice and it tells you to jump to a particular page. And I remember absolutely loving these. So this one's Armies of Death. I'll come back to this one. We also have another fighting fantasy in Portal of Evil. I almost read that as a C, but it's Portal of Evil. Very cool. Then there was where was the other one that I noticed in here? The Forest of Doom. A bit tattered. This one got a lot of reads. I remember I must have been sick in bed, and I think I had measles or something like that. I was bedridden for like weeks, and I still have wonderful memories of my mum or dad or someone giving me this book. And I remember just reading it through the whole week, and I must have read it like a dozen times to actually finish it. The Forest of Doom, what an absolute classic. Very nostalgic, that one. But the next one was also a fighting fantasy novel in Starship Traveller. And when I read this one, I started to realise, hang on, I really like science fiction. At the time I didn't even know this was a science fiction type novel, but this was the one that sort of sparked an interest for me in science fiction, and you start to see some of that come to life as we go through the rest of the box. But Starship Travellers, I'd say this was one of the very early novels that started me thinking about science fiction, apart from the likes of H.G. Wells and The Time Machine and novels like that. Now we also got some just standard choose your own adventure novels, The Deadly Shadow and Terror Island. I like the little handwriting there. I think my mum wrote that. Looks like her handwriting. So yeah, plenty of fighting fantasy and choose your own adventure stories. I guess there were a lot of people in my generation that started their reading journey reading books like that. But yeah, an absolute classic. Now, this was also a novel I read so many times, and Dan teased me for it. But Heidi, how cool was Heidi? I honestly really enjoyed Heidi, and you know, I reckon if I was to read it today, I probably will still enjoy it today. Classic. I loved Heidi. Don't hold that against me. I just love that novel. Another one that I read a lot, and you can tell but just how tattered and broken this one was Jaws. I absolutely loved Jaws. I loved reading this novel. I think this was one of the first sort of adult type novels that I read as a kid. That sort of really fascinated me. I was never really scared of sharks, and we didn't live too close to the ocean to really be a problem for us. But I just fell in love with this novel, and I read it back to back, I think 2 or 3 times in a row. I haven't yet read it since being an adult, so I'd love to revisit this one day and see what my adult self thinks about it. Another one that I read a few times was this Cyborg, and this was based on that television show, The $6 Million Man, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, now filmed for TV as The $6 Million Man. And I remember again, this sort of sparked something in me about, you know, robotics and science fiction that sort of started my you know, love affair with science fiction. So there you go, Cyborg. Now we get into some sort of fantasy and a young adult novel in The Legend of Tarek. I can't honestly remember much about this one, but I must have read it and I must have enjoyed it. Otherwise, I don't think I would have held on to it, because I had a habit of, you know, bad habit, I guess, of tossing the novels I didn't enjoy. Now, this one I don't know if I read it all. Dragonlance novels, I don't know. Riverwind, The Plainsman. Is anyone familiar with these? I honestly can't remember anything about this. The back says, quest for the blue crystal staff. To prove himself worthy of his beloved gold moon, Riverwind is sent on an impossible quest by the elders of the Quayshu tribe. Find evidence of the true gods. Sounds interesting. I think that lizard creature there on the cover rings a bell. I think I may have read it, but I can't remember it. Now this one, I'm going to go back to fantasy. Andre Norton, Trail of Swords. I remember reading this several times, and I don't think, read any other Andre Norton novel. And so many times over the years, I thought I want to get back to Andre Norton because of my childhood, you know, read of his, or her actually. So her, she just said, I'm pretty sure this is correct. Correct me down below if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Andre Norton is a female, and she took that name because it was, at the time, it was thought that a female science fiction or fantasy writer wouldn't appeal to a young audience. How things have changed in fantasy land. But anyway, Andre Norton, I've not read her again. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're an Andre Norton fan. Where should I go to as a reread as an adult? I'd love to hear your opinions. But now this is where you really start to see the science fiction elements. At some point I bought this, Peter Davison's book of Alien Planets. Now all I knew about Peter Davison's was the guy's face. I was a Doctor Who fan by that stage, and I saw the Doctor Who guy, I thought, oh, that's Doctor Who, you know? I want to see what he's got to say, and I thought he'd written these, but what you actually find is that they're short stories, and it's got some classic science fiction giants in there, like Arthur C. Clarke and Ray Bradbury. Got a couple of Arthur C. Clarkes in there, and I'd say that this one was really the one that started me thinking, oh, this is cool, I love science fiction, I've got to be a fan, which goes straight into John Elric Holmes' Mordred. And it's got a little outline by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle. How cool is that? I'm actually reading a Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle novel at the moment, The Mote in God's Eyes. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be coming up in a review shortly. But this is where you really start to see me going from fantasy into hardcore science fiction. And I've mentioned several times on this channel, and this is the last of this lot, that I was by this stage already a Star Trek fan, and this is the novel, all new Star Trek 2, adapted by James Blish. Right, this is where I started getting to James Blish, which I've mentioned several times on this channel, being a big fan of James Blish, especially the a case of conscience, and I've been a fan ever since with James Blish. And this was the one that started it. Interestingly, though, I can't remember this episode, this Star Trek episode, but this was the one that started that love affair with James Blish, and I've read several of his novels shortly after. Okay, so the big Heinlein set. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's in this one, because I really can't remember what was in there. And it's pretty well packed, so let's see. Bubble wrap. How many times have you guys heard me comment about bubble wrap on this channel during the book haul videos? If you're a fan of the book haul videos, why don't you give this one a like? That way, because I always buy buy books in lots, and I don't always film them. So you hitting that like may just make me realize that you want to see more of this, and I'll continue posting them. All right. So straight off the bat, I can see we're going to have some duplicates here. But I don't mind. I mean, you can't go wrong with Heinlein. But we've got here Stranger in a Strange Land. I'm pretty sure that's the same one that I have. Let me have a quick check. Yeah, it's the same version I have. But that's okay. That's pretty cool. So maybe a future giveaway. I've got two of them, and this is an absolutely must-have novel. So I don't mind having that. That will always sell, even if I wanted to sell it. But what's this one? To Sail Beyond the Sunset. I haven't read about this one, nor have I read this one. Has anyone read this one? You can't go wrong with a Heinlein. It's one of his chunkier novels. How is it? It's 430 odd pages. What's it say? It doesn't really have a blurb I can talk to. Has anyone read that one? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. It's not one you often see talked about. So, a multi-dimensional epic by the best-selling grandmaster of science fiction. It's definitely that. Robert Heinlein, The Door into Summer. His invention stolen by... I can't read without glasses. His invention stolen by a double-crossing business partner and a two-timing fiancé. Dan Davis decides to leave a life suddenly turned sour. Using the long sleep, he wakes up in the year 2000. Okay, one of those. To begin with, everything seems fine in the 21st century, but why are his old robots now mass-produced and marketed under his own name? To find out, Dan must bluff his way on a space jump back to where it all began. That sounds interesting, actually. We read something similar just recently with the ultimate, what's it called? The Uncertain Midnight by Edmund Cooper. Sort of rings the same, doesn't it? The Menace from Earth, Robert Heinlein. Moon cities plunge underground, and Earth is a sinister planet dying in the sky. Extraterrestrial intelligence prowls the heavens and kidnaps man creatures for its unearthly amusement. This is the day past tomorrow. Time has ended, and man has begun his endless journey towards menacing stars. I think I have read this one. A really cool cover art, though. We should have a better look at this cover art too, because that was just brilliant. Have a look at that. I do like my vintage cover arts. This one I've read about, The Number of the Beast, Robert Heinlein, an enthralling combination of classic space opera and heroic fantasy. The Number of the Beast is a breathtakingly original masterwork from one of the acknowledged greats of the genre. The Number of the Beast, I think I've read, I'm pretty sure I haven't read it, but I've read negative reviews of this one. Have you read it? What do you think? Good, bad, indifferent? You know, I'm not I would say a number one Robert Heinlein fan, but I do like his confrontational and somewhat controversial themes that he brings to the table. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what he says, but I do always really respect a man for speaking his mind. The Day After Tomorrow. Washington destroyed completely before the government could escape. With Manhattan in ruins, that leaves no. There was a click, blah, blah, blah. Cool cover art, though. 6 men fight to the death against 400 million. Oh, no. Maybe I should have just read the highlight. That looks interesting. Yeah, you can take a snapshot and read that in your own pleasure. Have you read that one? What's that one about? The Man Who Sold the Moon. I'm pretty sure I've got this one again as well. Yeah, I do have it. I do have this one behind me, and I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same cover as well. So again, perhaps this one will come up in an auction. Not an auction. Well, I keep saying auction. I bought these in auction, but this may come up in a giveaway sometime in the future. I was actually thinking of reading that one next. Would you like me to do that and leave a video for you? Let me know in the comments. Assignment in Eternity. The Federal Bureau of Security sends one of its top agents to Earth from the moon, carrying a spool of microfilm of incalculable value. He arrives disguised as a commercial traveller, but quickly transforms into Captain Gilead, explorer and lecturer, blah blah blah. Cool cover art though. Has anyone read this one? We only got 3 to go. What's this? 6 Strange Souls in Search of Salvation. Heinlein, 6 times H. The original title was The Unpleasant Profession of Jonathan Hogue. Has anyone read this one? It looks like 6 shocking penetrations into the unknown, Heinlein. It looks like 6 short stories, perhaps. But it looks like it looks like it. But it looks like it's targeting the young adults or juvenile market. Has anyone read this one? It's probably intrigued me the most out of the whole lot. Yeah, it looks like young adult, wouldn't you say? Have you read this one? What are your thoughts? Robert Heinlein's Waldo and Magic Inc. Fat, ugly and hopelessly crippled on Earth, Waldo F. Jones floated like a seraph in the only place in the universe where he was truly free, the incredible zero-gravity home mockingly called Wheelchair by those who hated him. He regarded the whole human race as his servants, and they were. Looks interesting. Have you read that one? What are your thoughts? And last and not least, Revolt in 2100. The year is 2100 and America is ruled by a corrupt and despotic religious dictator. He maintains power through the clever use of advanced psychological techniques and dedicated military cliché. Sorry, it's scratched out. An entire population is rendered helpless. But under the surface, rebellion simmers. It looks like one of those The Moon's a Harsh Mistress type novel. A steadily growing band of men is preparing to storm the most impregnable bestial of all, the collective mind of a nation. No one else comes even close to Heinlein in consistently and successfully fusing scientific thinking with fictional form. Fictional form. Shocker, I'm getting tired. There you have it. Which one would you say is the best of those? I got a feeling that the best and definitely the most recognizable and popular of those novels would be Stranger in a Strange Land. But I'm really cool and really cool. I'm really curious to see what the others may hold. Have you read any of these? What would you say? Did you like my trip down memory lane? I really enjoyed looking through all of those. And I can't thank you again enough, Mummy, for buying those or storing those for me all those years. And if memory serves me right, you would have bought them for me. I would have only been a little kid, and I don't think I would have spent my pocket money on it. So thank you so much, Mum, and I love you. I love you to bits. And I'll see you next time, and I love you all. And I'll see you next time in the shed.